The meeting ID and link at the front of the agenda during any portion of tonight's meeting must be viewable to the City Council by using their camera feature during the caller's public comment, and must be a Larimer County resident or an individual who owns property or has a business interest in the city. The caller should choose the raise your hand feature to let the moderator know you wish to speak. Anyone making an in-person comment during any portion of tonight's meeting should come forward to a microphone. Please do not interrupt other speakers. Side conversation should be moved outside the council chambers. Comments will be limited to no more than 3 minutes. The city clerk will start a timer once an introduction is made, and a buzzer will sound when the 3 minutes have expired. We ask that you please identify yourself and your city of residence when giving public comment. So up now is public comment. Anyone who wishes to speak may address the council at this time, and I'll start with people inside chambers.
Good evening, Amanda Waddell, Ward 2. So I worked in HR for like 15 years. And so I was inclined to look at the city manager debacle from that perspective. So it took a little bit of work, but I found the City of Loveland AR, the administrative regulation. And as you guys are considering, hopefully, how to handle this situation going forward with Mr. Adams, I want to point out one facet of the AR that I think really stands out and speaks to the situation. It's number 6. The AR is something that all City of Loveland employees are required to receive. So number 6 says, violation of any federal, state, or local law when the misconduct would interfere with an employee's performance or undermine public trust in the integrity of the city. The city may find a violation of its policies and or procedures whether or not a conviction occurs. So please, look at the AR, take that into consideration. Thank you.
Amanda, why don't I have you spell out what AR is?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's the administrative regulation, just the part of the city handbook for all city employees.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there additional public comment from inside chambers? Welcome back.
Evening. Dave Clark, Ward 4. I have known City Manager Steve Adams for several years, even before he was appointed as City Manager, when he was the city's Water Power Director. Steve is a good and honest man. I was a member of the council when we hired him as the City Manager. It was a unanimous decision to hire him, this because of his proven record of organizational skills and his integrity. It was the right decision then, and it's the right decision now. I have listened to the recent attacks against Steve. For the most part, they are completely unfounded, exaggerated, and in some cases, blatant lies. Is Steve Adams a criminal? Of course not. Is Steve Adams a risk to our community? Absolutely not. Is Steve Adams a risk to our community's reputation? No. On the contrary, he has done a lot to uphold the good reputation of our community against the threats and attacks that have besieged us over the last few years. As you are all aware, there is a small but noisy group of disgruntled members of our community that apparently despise our city manager. They despise much of our city staff. They despise you, the city council. And unfortunately, they despise our city. Is their purpose to make things better in Loveland? The answer to that is an emphatic no. What is their purpose then? Their purpose, as stated in a past campaign race, is to, quote, upset the apple cart, end quote. So what happens when one upsets the apple cart? They create division, contention, and destruction. This has been and still is their purpose. They're working to tear down what some of us, including Councillor Ball, Councillor Fogel, has spent a lifetime building up in our great city. As you as a city council consider next steps, I would encourage you to remember that your responsibility is to help our city grow and improve. You can do this by working with and supporting the good man that is our city manager, Steve Adams. In conclusion, I will share a familiar tune with some modifications. If I had one of my actors here, I'd have them sing it, but with me, singing is not an option. I'm dreaming of a wonderful Loveland, just like the one I used to know, where the treetops glisten and children listen to all the beautiful things our city has to offer each one of us. That part doesn't rhyme, sorry. I'm dreaming of a beautiful Loveland with every experience I have here. May your days in Loveland be merry and bright, and may all of us be filled with light. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there additional public comment from inside chambers? Welcome back, Darrell.
Thank you. Darrell Klassen, Ward 1, Loveland, Colorado. I'm here before you tonight with disgust and irritation. But first, some background. I first saw Loveland in 1961. Wow. Had to live in Loveland. Took me 9 years to get the Loveland radio stations bought. Paradise sought and found. Since 1970, when I first broadcast gavel to gavel the Loveland City Council proceedings, I have observed and known in first person every city council member and city manager that you see pictured in the back of this room. All heroes and wonderful performers who made this city impressive, grand, vivid, superb. We had a couple of duds, but we got rid of them quickly. In all these years, it's amazing how many national magazines, studies, and publications have listed Loveland, Colorado as one of the top communities, if not number one, in quality of life where to live. But you'd never know it by the number of putrid offerings coming constantly at this city council, and in particular now the Loveland city manager, Steve Adams. I have sat in back rooms with presidents, CEOs, governors, senators, legislators, prominent persons from all walks of life, most of whom have been highly professional and qualified. I have consulted with Steve Adams when he headed the city utilities department, also at council and privately. The flood of 2013 found Steve Adams performing a spectacular city engineering feat that saved the city's water supplies from near total destruction. I've had 42 years of broadcast experience and 15 years of elected office. I have been privileged to work closely with many professionals, both public and in private life. And then there's Steve Adams. Steve sits now at your elbows, with expertise, with ethics unmatched, a listener who treats all with utmost respect and courtesies. His mannerisms, ethics, and behaviors to all stand pure and without reproach. Steve Adams' military and civilian work performances are outstanding, prominent, and conspicuous. I'm damn sick of all the dissidents in Loveland who are bitching about everything they can think of. It doesn't get any better than with Steve Adams in any direction you'd like to look. So picky complainers, knock it off. Let Steve Adams perform as he has for all of Loveland's benefit. And with apologies to Lerner and Lowe's Camelot, I say to you, all the growlers and gripers and grouges, I know there's simply not a more convenient spot for happy ever aftering than here in Loveland, Colorado. We got a horse over there. Let's leave him alone, shall we?
Thank you. Is there additional?
I just had a brief question.
Oh,
if I could.
sure.
But I missed the gentleman's name. Did you happen to
Darrell Klassen?
Darrell?
Mm-hmm. He's a former city council.
Oh, that was my ask.
I
did.
Sorry, was there a question?
County Commissioner. Darrell, hi. Counselor Andrea Sampson, as you can tell, I'm sort of new-ish to the board.
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear you.
I said I'm sort of new-ish to the board, so my question to you is going to be, where did you serve the 15 years? You said you were elected representative, but my board has already shared with me that you were both a city council member and a commissioner. I thank you for your public service.
A Larimer County Commissioner, 8 years, and on the City Council, 7 years. There's the 15 years.
Thank you. Could I ask, what made you want to buy up radio stations here locally?
Well, it was my 42 years I was in the broadcast. It was my chosen profession, radio, television, programming, and then the bug got to ownership. And to acquire ownership, you can't go into a major market. I had to buy a small community of Loveland, Colorado, 16,123 residents. We're now at what, 81,000?
75, 70-ish, 76?
Close to 80.
Close to 80.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit smug about, I knew what was going to happen to Loveland when a lot of people in Loveland didn't know what was going to happen to Loveland. The 81,000 doesn't surprise me. I knew it was going to happen back in 1970 when I first came here. Any other questions?
Were there any Loveland radio stations when you bought up the airspace here?
When what?
When you bought airspace here in Loveland, were there other radio stations already in Loveland, or were you the first?
No, KLOV was the only radio station in Loveland. It was a daytimer on 1570. However, in the parking lot, I could listen to 42 radio stations. Denver, Fort Collins, Greeley, Longmont, stations were all around. So I had to do something that would separate me from all the competition, and it was all competition. It was called local, local, local. You notice I said I carried, and it was the dullest damn broadcast you'd ever hear in your life, was Loveland City Council proceedings. One quick story out of it. The microphones then were terrible. There was one city councilman, a great councilman by the name of Danny Garrett, and the microphones were so bad, and I had to have that pot all the way open to get the needle on the board just to quiver like that. And Danny Garrett was the only one on mic, and he would then cough. And that needle, it just rang over there. I'm surprised it didn't break the board. But anyway, any other questions or comments that I can help you with?
Thank you, Daryl. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there additional public comment from inside chambers?
Hi, Kathy Wright, Ward 2. I'm here to say a few words about City Manager Steve Adams. I've known him many years. I worked for the city for 13 years. I want to mention that when I worked in risk management, both at Kodak and the city and Poudre Valley Hospital, there were many times when there were court cases that did not go to a guilty, not guilty thing where people came up with an agreement in order to move on and do what needed to be done in our business or hospital or whatever. So I wasn't surprised at all with the way this case went. I was surprised with the judge, jury, and executioner style people that decided that they needed to go way too far with what was said. And I want to mention too, like Daryl, of the city managers that I've known and worked with, 6, I think, in Loveland, Steve ranks right up there, one of the best. His steady approach, he doesn't get angry. He doesn't lose control. He is a great leader. And I just want to remind you all, and there's thousands and thousands of us in this community who feel that way. So the ones that are coming before you demanding certain things are not representative of our entire community. Just a little reminder. And I want to thank Steve and Moses for all their hard work during rough political times. I mean, getting through COVID the way we did so far was commendable. I mean, I can't even list all the things that I've been so pleased with the way Steve led this organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Nope.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, councilors, city staff. I'm Earl Sethry. I'm in Ward 1 until you redistrict, but long-time Loveland resident since 1974. I watch city council meetings every Tuesday night when I'm in town. I've joked with Councilor Fogel that you guys are my Tuesday night entertainment. But I'm not joking about last Tuesday night. It was not a pleasant night. I saw a person who got raked over the coals, dragged through the mud, if you will, a good person. I'm talking about City Manager Steve Adams. And I don't know how he was feeling, but frankly, I was really incensed. And I'd like to use a different word than incensed, but this is not an appropriate forum for that. Okay, I'm not a lawyer, but there's been not a guilty finding. He's not admitted to any guilt, yet he has agreed to conflict resolution, and he's agreed to 50 hours of volunteer community service. Frankly, 50 hours of volunteer community service for Steve Adams, he does that standing on his head already, and I know that because I've worked right next to him shoulder to shoulder for several months down at the community kitchen. He cares about the homeless. He cares about everybody in Loveland. And now some people want to kick him to the curb. I know he has his review coming up in November. I would expect that he gets high marks in every category. We need to retain him. And also, I think in these inflationary times, we need to give him a raise. I urge council to meet, I know that you hear a lot from a small, vocal, angry group, and I think you need to keep that in perspective because, as Kathy said, there is a huge community out here that likes and supports Steve, and we really need to keep him as our city manager. So do the right thing. Steve deserves our respect because he's worked hard and he's done it the old-fashioned way. He's earned it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there additional public comment from inside? And welcome back, Leah.
Hi, Leah Johnson, Ward 2. So when I was on city council, we hired Steve Adams, and I'd make the same decision again today. He has served our community well. He has served our community with pride, and he has done great things. When I was on council, I gave birth to my second child, and he often was a attendee at meetings. And Steve was always the first one to help me with whatever he possibly could. What does the baby need? What can we do? And I just think that story is so important because Steve would go above and beyond to help anybody out. And he was accommodating and helpful and understood that, you know, I was trying to serve my community at that time, and he was willing to help me do whatever I needed to do to serve my community. That's the kind of man Steve Adams is. He works hard. The hardest worker ever. We had to force him when I was on council to take vacation because the man refused to just stop working. He works tirelessly for this community, day in and day out. And yes, there has been a wave of negative folks who seem to point out everything that's wrong with our community. But the truth is there are so many things that are good about Loveland. So many things. And it doesn't matter what you do, they will never be happy. So what we have to look at is the people who are serving our community in a manner which is respectable and with pride and makes me proud. And again, I would make the same decision again today to hire Steve Adams as our city manager. He has done great things for our community, and I've continued to work with him since I've been off of council on things that matter for our community, like the waste shed policy group and affordable housing. And even when we haven't seen eye to eye, which we haven't, I will always respect Steve as a true public servant, someone who loves this community and literally does everything in his power to make it a better place to live. And so when you're thinking about what you are going to do in his review, there's no question in my mind. He is Loveland City Manager. He should continue to be Loveland City Manager, and he should continue to be able to do the great work that he's been doing for the many years that he has served our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there additional public comment from inside chambers? Not seeing anyone. We'll go to Adriana on our phone-in public comment. Adriana, do we have any phone-in public comment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Users, if you would like to speak to this item, choose the raise your hand feature. Per council's policies, you must have your video on during public comment. As the moderator calls on the user's name, please accept the pop-up request on your screen to become a panelist. The meeting will automatically rejoin you as a panelist, and you may turn on your video, then begin your public comment. You must be ready to accept the pop-up window request from the moderator when called on. User with the name Larry Sarner, please accept the request to become a panelist. Larry, please turn on your video and begin your public comment.
I don't see. Okay, we're seeing a name. There you are. All right. You're muted right now? We see you, but you're muted.
Madam Mayor, a point of order really quick.
Uh-huh.
Our city rules and procedures require a name and a city of residence, please.
All right. We just lost the visual, and you're still muted. And there's been a request for not only your name, but city of residence. He must be having trouble connecting.
Green screen.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Madam Mayor, if I could, while we're waiting for Larry to come back online, it's county of residence, I think, isn't it? And
It's
or business interest.
And city of Loveland.
Well, we just read the instructions.
Can we move on, please?
No.
All right, Adriana, do we have other phone-in public comment? We can come back to Mr. Sarner if he's able to connect.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. User by the name Casey, please accept the request to become a panelist. Casey, you may turn on your camera and begin your public comment.
We can see, there you go.
Casey Mullins, Loveland, Ward 2. I hope you can hear me because I can't see any of you.
We can see you and we can hear you.
Thank you. And gosh, so far today, I this evening I've been, let's see, I guess I would be one of the small, putrid, loud, few angry people. Only, council, many times I've thanked you for your service, and I truly mean it, because you do a thankless job. Many times, my position is I love Loveland, and I believe we can all do better. Not just you, all of us. And so, yes, I come to council and point some things out. And evidently, you know, if nothing I can do about those that don't care for that. what I would like to bring your attention to is that you are going to be looking at redrawing the wards tonight. Now, it's a study session, yes. But what I find really, really intriguing, and I would ask you all to keep this in mind, which probably I should say the reverse so that it happens, I'm sorry, is that staff comes to you with two options. Two. One option is staff's recommended option. The other option increases the populations in wards 3 and 4. It cuts out the downtown area from Ward 1 and Ward 2. Where are the options to maybe cut out the downtown area from Ward 3, Ward 4, and repopulate those into Ward 1 and 2? Now, I've done some research. I understand that this does have to come to a council vote. And, you know, I've been trying to look into some gerrymandering positions on something like this. If your ward is going to benefit from a redistricting, then perhaps, to be transparent, maybe you could, I don't know, abstain. That's the way I've been taught. But I know y'all have your own rules. Thank you again for your service.
Thank you. Adriana, do we have additional phone and public comment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. User by the name Olivia Lowe, please accept this request to become a panelist. Olivia, you may turn on your camera and begin your public comment.
Whoops. All right, is it on?
Yes, we can see and hear you.
Okay, great, thank you. A lot of people were asked to come in and sing the praises of Steve Adams this evening. I get that. But the fact still remains. Our city manager did what he did to another human being, and now he has to pay the consequences for that through community service and anger management classes. Everybody has an opportunity to be good and great and a wonderful person until they're not. That doesn't mean they don't have to suffer the consequences of that. If a regular city employee who was a fantastic city employee did the exact same thing, do you honestly think that your HR would keep them? No, they wouldn't. They would be fired on the spot. So I'm sure our city manager has done all kinds of wonderful things. I'm also sure that other people have asked him to vote a certain way, do a certain thing, you know, choose this person for police officer, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact of the matter remains, Steve Adams took a misstep. He was charged with harassment/assault, and now he has to pay the consequences. Whether he pleaded guilty or innocent, it doesn't matter. The court saw the video. The judge made the decision. You don't do community service and take anger management classes because you are innocent, because you did nothing, right? So I'm sure he did great things, but he needs to suffer the consequences of his latest behavior. So I love this town, but this town needs to buck up and do the right thing for once in its life. Thank you.
Thank you. Adriana, do we have additional phone and public comment? Did you have?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. User by the name Larry
He hasn't come
Sarner,
back on to
please
answer the
accept
question.
this request to become a panelist.
I didn't. Adriana,
Mr. Sarner, sorry.
is Mr. Sarner the last person wanting to make public comment?
He, at this point, he is, Madam Mayor.
Okay. I'll give it a few more seconds and then we're going to close. All right, we're closing public comment. I want to thank everybody for attending and giving public comment, both in person and on the phone.